Oh, I got to put this up here too. Do. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're getting ready to get this one underway. Is this today's show? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Want to hear Harbaugh again? Let's do it. You get Harbaugh again. Start this whole thing back up.
It was a heck of a game. I mean, they made a lot of great plays. Our guys made a lot of great plays. In the end, they made one more.
Deja vu all over again, as Yogi would say. Dennis Fithian with you here. Beige and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you find the New Year is working out well for you. We're going to be talking about the game, the Fiesta Bowl, back on Saturday. And we're getting a little bit started a little bit late because I was on and they have the microphone on. And that was an error like fumbling the ball at the 1 yard line. That was an error like throwing that one pick six, but two pick sixes. That's an error like getting down when your bread and butter is, and the biggest difference in the game is the offensive line, and that's calling a Philly special. That's what that's like. But, let's see if I can rebound and go from here. All right. We are going to talk about the future of Michigan football. I've got some Harbaugh rumor thoughts, and we'll look back to the game, and that's where we start, looking back to the game. Now, the game is one of these games that you'll never get over. You don't have an opportunity. Who knows if Michigan, here's the thing, right? You say, well, you got to get over it. And it's true. At some point, you got to get over it. But the reason it's very difficult to get over, and I mostly, you wouldn't think I would have to explain it to people, that are big Michigan football fans, is Michigan may never be in this seat again with this chance, to advance to the national championship game. Hopefully they are. But that was the kind of opportunity they had, and to come out and beat themselves and have a game in a demonstration in how to lose a football game with so much on the line is something that, there's a part of this that you'll never get over, and you shouldn't if you're a Michigan fan. I know that, everybody gets over things and processes things in life, a different way. With losses in Michigan football history, there's some that are easier to get over than others. This one is one that's going to fit in there next to all of their worst losses in history, with what was on the line and what they had an opportunity to do. So, yeah, that sucks. And the game overall was a real torture chamber to go through. And I don't know, being at the game, I had a friend that kept texting me, he's sitting around a bunch of TCU fans. He kept saying, oh, they're crying about the officials. And I went online for a little bit to see what people were saying. And people were freaking out, after the Philly special. You understand that's what kind of social media is for. Our game thread of the Maize and Blue Review, people were freaking out. And I said, I'm not going to be able to handle being online. And it was like I got to halftime, and things didn't look good, at the half for Michigan, 21-6, but they'd been a second half team all year long, and so there was that to lean on. But and then there was you could feel it. I wasn't at the game, but you could feel the momentum surge in the second half with Michigan starting to have some success, and then they gave us some plays. They gave us another pick six. It's really, even a couple of days after here, it's hard to believe with all of the points that they served up and the times that they shot themselves in the foot with the fumbles and the pick sixes and being down by 18 like they were, that they had the opportunities in this game to win it and to be right there. And yeah, you can point to fumbling on the one, you can point to either the pick sixes, you can point to the Philly special. You could point to the 3rd and 7. It's the one I keep pointing to, although I can't get the Philly special out of my mind. Setting the tone for the game. And then on the last drive that Michigan had, when they needed to get TCU off the field and use their timeouts to get the ball back with enough time, they gave up 2 yards, but then they gave up 7 yards to a backup running back. And that was that one, man, really cut down their chances and their percentage of being able to get the ball back with enough time where you didn't need a miracle. And yet still we're there with, the ball back and with an opportunity to do it. Let's get to that feedback. I had so much feedback before, and I'm sorry for everybody. I didn't have my mic on, so I was just sitting here talking. Nobody could hear me. That must have been fun. I must have been. I'm looking at how I must have looked. And that didn't look very good. Yelling around like that. PM says he's still depressed. He can't snap out of it. The offensive line was so disappointing. The second straight year, we win the Joe Moore Award and have a dud game. Yeah, well, this one's going to – I hate to say this, and, at some point, we'll work through it and everything, PM, but, you're going to be depressed. The part you put so much into Michigan football. It's your favorite thing. You love it. You look forward, countdown to the season. And then you have a season like this, undefeated season, winning the Big Ten, and then just the anticipation. And then this thing was Michigan was in prime position to advance to the championship game. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard some people telling you, hey, snap out, turn the page. Okay, all right, turn the page, snap out of it. All right. Yeah, the offensive line. Maybe Harbaugh knew something. Like, maybe Harbaugh was scared with his offensive line because he gets down there from the 2-yard line, and I thought 100 times out of 100 times, if he goes for it, that and look, Harbaugh has been it's the way the college game's going, it's the way the pro game's going. You might not like it. It's taken a little bit of adjustment, but everybody's going for it now. So they were going for it. I thought 100 times out of 100 times Harbaugh would have run that ball. Now you could pick whether he would have run it with JJ, or he would have run it with Donovan Edwards, or he would have run it with Khalil Mullings. However, the short yardage back, I think I would have said, hey, here's $1,000. What are you going to bet on the play call? I said, they're going to run it over the left side to Khalil Mullings. That's my pick. And no, they went with a Philly special, but they ran it into a zone defense. And after the game, Harbaugh put it on himself. But, if setting the tone in a ball game means anything, if having your strength and you go away from it, you just wonder if that was the confidence that the TCU defense needed, if that was Michigan tiptoeing a little bit, thinking, hey, maybe our offensive line. I mean, no, I think they thought their offensive line was good enough. And they had just busted out with a 53-yard run in that drive. They had every reason in the world to be confident there, and yet, they went to a gadget play. Harbaugh said it was on him after the game, so there you are. I'm sorry, PM. It can happen. You can lose ball games. I think if Michigan played, I've said this, leading up to the TCU game, I said if they played 10 times, I thought that Michigan would have won the game 6 or 7 times. And I still feel like that. And then if Michigan would have won the game, and I was sitting here and I was talking about Michigan playing Georgia, I said, if Michigan plays Georgia, they're probably going to lose 6 or 7 other times. But it needs to be their day. They need to come out in that game and play, their A+ game and play like that. And that's what TCU was able to do. They were able to play that kind of game. They had that kind of game against Michigan. So, it's not always, even though Michigan could have and should have won that game, you can't beat yourself. You can't come out in a game that is an aggressive game like football and go to quirky things right off the bat. And then you can't fumble at the 1-yard line. You can't throw pick sixes. And when you have the opportunity to get off the field on a 3rd down with one of your star players, you got to make the tackle. And when you get late in the game and you got to get the other team off the field with a backup running back that they're just trying to milk the clock with, you got to stop them. And they weren't able to do any of those things. Jason is indicating the one game we needed the most, we came out flat. JJ has 3 picks all year and tossed 2 pick sixes. He won't say anything about some of the calls. TCU played well enough to beat RD. Congratulations to them. That's a very well thought through, and I think you're right on top of it, Jason. And I think for a lot of people, it's really, I can say that's all we really need to say. But we'll go through it a little bit more. The 3-3-5 was more successful than I thought it would be. They executed it well. Yeah, they sure did, Troy. It was way more successful than I thought it would be. I was talking with a former player before the game, and he said, he's asked me when the last time Michigan had faced a 3-3-5, and I didn't know the answer to that. And he compared it to playing like Army or Air Force. It's like it's a way different. I thought that there were more teams out there. I thought that they would have come up with some kind of simulation, although I think it was Minter that I was listening to, somebody on defense, and they were talking about simulating the 3-3-5, and they're like, it's really hard to do. We can't do it. I bet they wish they did a better job or spent more time. They probably spent the time. When you talk about bowl prep and everything, they should have done a better job simulating the 3-3-5. Here's Shane, who got in a little bit earlier. He was at the game, the 3rd and 7. The missed tackle in the 4th by DJ, and we scored 16 unanswered to cut the lead to 3. The energy and momentum in that building was with us. It was. It is after all of that. The meme Shane was referring to is my ticket pick, by the way. That photo watching the replay of the game. Oh, okay. I gotta get a little bit closer in there to check it out. My eyes. Maybe I need some better glasses and get it in there. Shane to talk about it. Here's some things that I wrote down that I wanted, and we've already covered some of them, but I'll just say it again. You're not going to win a football game with a pair of pick sixes, a fumble at the goal line, and a Philly special. And yet, the crazy thing about this game is that Michigan was in position to do that. After all of those things, I've already mentioned the 3rd and 7. But urgency and the time management late, they had them pinned down there, the 2nd and 8, giving up 7 yards. That killed them. I do want to go to the officials. Jason wouldn't talk about it, but I don't like making excuses for, there are people that go to the officials all the time, and that can drive you a little bit crazy, and sometimes it needs to be talked about. And do I think that the officials cost Michigan the game? No, I don't. Do I think they botched the Wilson replay? Yes. Do I think that it was a targeting call with 25 seconds left? Yes. Do I think they choked because it was a championship game and they didn't want to, even though it was a targeting, when you looked through it, it met all the criteria for targeting, that they didn't want to feel like they were over officiating or calling or that's what I think they did. It's kind of like in basketball where it's the last play of the game and they swallow their whistle. Kind of like in the old time hockey, not that old time, like 10 or 15 years ago, when you'd get to playoff hockey and a penalty is a penalty, unless it's the overtime in playoff hockey, then the guys are swallowing their whistle. I think that's what they did. And there's nothing I hate more when I have the broadcasters in there that take you through it and they bring in the freaking rules official and he says, I know the rules, and it was a lowering the crown of his helmet. It was a forceful hit to the neck and head injury. It is, that's targeting. And then they don't call it. Those officials choked. Now, Michigan, that was on their own 25, so they'd have got the ball at the 40, their own 40 with 25 seconds to go. Could they have thrown a 15, 20-yard pass, and then could they have thrown it into the end zone and win it? Yeah. I mean, that would have been a type of miracle type, but they weren't allowed to try to perform a miracle. So, yeah, I mean, you can be upset at the officials on that. Meanwhile, the Wilson turnover, I look at it like this. You could say, hey, would you take the ball at the 1 yard line, one where they the officials, even though there wasn't irrefutable evidence or anything else? Would you take the ball at the 1 yard line? Or would you take a late hit free 15 yards like Michigan got with the TCU guys? That was as bad as any call that was made all day long. So if you're a Michigan fan, think about that. That was one of the worst calls all day long. And then the clear no catch in the last drive, or one of the last drives for Michigan where the ball hits the ground and they don't look at that one, that was also egregious. What it comes back to is that in this game, like, this wasn't the Tony Tiger, Allen or whatever, the Tony Tiger Cornflakes Bowl. It was the freaking college football semifinal. You would think that the lead guy is one of the two best in the country, that the best two that they have, and that crew couldn't get out of the way. They had a hard time spotting the ball. They were an embarrassment to their profession, and yet they didn't cost Michigan the game. And they need a full review of replay. But, I don't just watch college football. I don't just watch Michigan. Every other game I'm talking about, well, that doesn't look like irrefutable video evidence. They bring in a rules official, and they're like, yeah, that's definitely this. Then the call on the field's going against it. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. What you need to do, and, it sounds, everybody would agree, but you can't count on it. You need to do what Michigan did to Ohio State. You need to go down there and blast them and take the officials out of the game. But, you can't do that all the time. And so you're stuck. But that's the best they have to offer. They kicked it. They should be embarrassed. There should be apologies coming in. Still, I don't think Michigan wins the game. Now you say, well, they got that touchdown. All right. They fumbled it. So my approach with the officials are, that was one of the worst officiated games that I've ever seen. Facts. Michigan still would have lost the game. Michigan still would have lost the game if it wasn't for the officials. Did you want them to clean up the one with Wilson, but then also keep the late hit and keep the long pass to Kojo? I mean, so get the targeting. If Michigan would have got the targeting and got the call with Roman, but would have not gotten the 15-yarder and not got the one the Kojo bounce, and then there's some holdings and some spots that you want to go back to. I mean, what are we talking about? So you've got a point, but Michigan still would have lost. So I don't know. Are you arriving at that? I don't know if you're able to connect that or not. But it's always good to be able to blame someone or something. And the officials are a very easy one to do, especially with the kind of game that they had. Maybe you want to blame Harbaugh. Maybe you want to blame Minter Klink. Maybe you want to blame Weissmore. Maybe you want to blame a specific player, J.J. McCarthy, DJ Turner. All of them. It's a team game. I'll put them all out there. So that's where I'm sitting with the officials. Back to the feedback. Second straight year we see JJ staring at the field watching a victory celebration after 2 pick sixes. He's not smiling at these post interviews now. Show up, P. Maximus. Well, JJ McCarthy is one of those players where you look at and you say, yeah, JJ, you threw 2 pick sixes. You were part of the reason that Michigan lost the game. J.J. McCarthy is also the reason that they were in this game. And J.J. McCarthy is coming back for a junior year. He's going to be a big reason that Michigan is going to be one of the top 5 teams in the country, and why Michigan is favored to win the Big Ten and be back in the college football playoff next year. So, yeah, I'll blame J.J. McCarthy, but I will also say that J.J. McCarthy is one of the great Michigan quarterbacks, had one of the great seasons a Michigan quarterback has ever had, and he's put himself in position to have a great season next year. So, you show up. Don't throw the 2 picks. I think he did show up. Don't throw the 2 picks. He knows that. And he promised, about him watching the celebrations, like, would you have rather had him, run off with his tail between his legs? I don't mind him standing out there and taking a look at it. He's going to remember it. I don't mind after the game. He answered the question, and then he said, hey, I promise you we're going to be back next year. J.J. McCarthy is, Michigan fans should feel good about having him under center, even if he was one of the reasons they lost the game. Jesse says the irony of the season, in my opinion, is JJ was given the quarterback one status to win this game, and he lost it. 2 pick sixes, secure the handoff, or get on the ball. Yeah, well, the quarterback position. I mean, how do you want to do it? Do you think Michigan win the game with a healthy Cade McNamara against Ohio State? I don't. I think they could have gone 11-0 with Cade McNamara, but I don't think they would have beaten Ohio State without J.J. McCarthy. And if this was it for J.J. McCarthy, I think you would say, wow, man, all of this, great season, what an opportunity, what an near miss, and they were right there. And then he threw the 2 picks, and as you're talking about, whatever you want, if you want to put that on the fumble with him, they didn't have it exactly right. They didn't rep it enough, maybe in bowl practice with the linebacker turned running back. But you also have a guy that's coming back next year that – how many quarterbacks? Let me ask you, Jesse and P. Maximus, because both of you are a little bit negative, and it's fine. J.J. McCarthy was part of the reason Michigan lost the game. You want to put him number one? All right. How many quarterbacks would you could go ahead and grant you a trade right now? Trade any quarterback in college football for J.J. McCarthy. Who are you trading him for? Klubnik from Clemson? The guy was running around the field in the Orange Bowl with his like a chicken with his head cut off. He's the number one recruit. You want him? Who else? You going to trade him for C.J. Stroud? He's going pro. Bryce Young, he'll be in the pros. Who are you trading him for? So, yeah, he cost him the game, but I think he's the best quarterback in the country that, Michigan's coming back with. So, yeah. You got that part around there. Jason, the very even keeled approach here on January the 2nd. We got matched up against a fancy team, and Jim Harbaugh went away from our bread and butter and tried to out-fancy them. Should have stuck to our game. Same we did with Georgia last year. Yeah, the setting the tone and the Philly special and, the not out, taking an audible out of that is, I'm sure they're kicking themselves out of that. There's plenty of things, all of them, they can sit around and kick themselves on. That would be one of them. And I get it against Ohio State. They threw the ball more than they did all year long because it was down in Columbus and they needed to do that. And then, they pulled the crazy jump pass with a linebacker and Khalil Mullings that everybody was like, oh, that was the greatest play ever. I don't know. Maybe Harbaugh was a little buoyed by, pulling the cat out of the hat. Let's keep doing it. Woo! I don't know. Watch a lot of football teams. Look at the Lions. Dan Campbell on, Thanksgivings, don't throw the ball, leave many times. You can just run the clock down. No, let's throw a 3rd one bomb. Let's throw it to a tackle. Put the game on the line for the first target in his career. Let's go for it. Fake punt out of our own end. Woo! Let's throw a jump pass in Columbus. Let's throw a Philly special. I mean, these coaches, they love throwing the dice now. I think gambling's a little addictive when it comes down to that. But I don't know, you do things that are so predictable. Like I said it, I'll say it one more time. If you gave me $1 million and said, what's Michigan going to run on this 4th and goal? I'd say, I'll put my $1 million. You have to put it all on one. I'll put it on him, run it over the left side with Khalil Mullings. That's what everybody wanted him to do. Maybe he would have fumbled there. I'm not going to play the game like, hey, you win some, you lose some. It was not the right call for the defense that they were in. Philosophically, when are you letting the other team in? Did they think that the TCU defense was really that good? Here's the problem with everything is that whatever Michigan's game plan was, and you could suggest that maybe they were scared of TCU because they went off and went with the Philly special. TCU was able to dictate everything. TCU got up. They had the lead, and they had it up 14, and then they were up 21-6, and they were up 18 2 times. Michigan was chasing its tail, and they weren't able to be the aggressors. And they were in a position that they were unaccustomed to all year long. So, yeah, not good. Venice. Hopefully, JJ humbled himself with all the talking before the game, especially when you throw 2 pick sixes. Yeah, I didn't, to me, Venice, I don't know about JJ humbling himself. JJ didn't say anything to me, and maybe there's something specifically he said or was quoted that I missed where you thought that he was arrogant or whatever else. But I like the way he approaches the game and the things that he said. So, you could point something out. I did see that what's his name? Junior Colson. I did see a quote where he was asked about, TCU and the Big 12, and Colson was like, "Do they play in the Big 12?" Like, I don't know. And you could say that, he wasn't giving them the respect because he didn't even know what the conference they were in. And you know what? Maybe he didn't know what conference they're in. Maybe you think he should know what conference they're in. Those are all fair things. TCU used that. They're like, these guys don't even freaking know what conference we're in. They're totally disrespecting us. They used that. TCU after the game said that was a card that they had used. The Junior Colson, we don't know what conference you play in card. Does it matter if you know what, your opponent, like, what they bring to the table? Did they respect them enough? After the fact, I think that's at least a fair question. I'd like to ask Jim Harbaugh and the various players, did you guys respect TCU enough? What did you do in bowl preparation given the opportunity now? In hindsight, would you go back? Harbaugh doesn't like to play that game, so I'd have to ask that more direct. Jim, what did you do to prepare for TCU specifically against the 3-3-5? Did they jump those routes and read JJ McCarthy? Was that something like, did you not see that coming? Did the run blitzes and their ability to outplay the Michigan offensive line, Jim, was that a surprise to you? Michigan not being able to run the ball on the 3-3-5, how big of a surprise was that to you? Those are the questions that I want to know. When you pull out the Philly special for the first opportunity in the game, when the teams are, did you think that they thought that that these were your tendencies? So you thought right off the bat that you'd try to pull a fast one? Give me the line of thinking there. Why would you run the Philly special into a zone? Those are the things that I'm thinking about. Yeah, I don't know. They couldn't run the ball with this offensive line and with Donovan Edwards after he ran for 50 on the first carry. He barely ran for 50 the rest of the game. I don't know. Jesse says he thinks a senior quarterback wins the Natty. You mean Colston? I mean the quarterback for Georgia? For TCU? Stenson Bennett or Duggan? Or are you talking about a Michigan senior quarterback? You're telling me you think that if Michigan had Caden McNamara in that game, they would have won? J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback than Caden McNamara. I'd rather have J.J. McCarthy. I don't think they would have beaten Ohio State, and J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback, and I would rather have J.J. McCarthy coming back for Michigan next year than Caden McNamara. That's fine. I mean, we don't all have to think about it the same way. Venice doesn't want to hear anything about JJ right now. Venice says he not the best quarterback. The USC quarterback. The North Carolina quarterback. I'll take them, but love JJ, but stop it. Well, Caleb Williams is going pro. So I said about guys that are coming back next year. So you can't trade. I'd trade for Caleb Williams too, and Bryce Young. I wouldn't do it for Stroud, even though as well as he played on Saturday night. But you want May over J.J. McCarthy, Venice? Did you watch him fold up late in the year? He looked like trash in a couple games. I mean, what are you talking about? You stop. Are you really on here defending anything that happened in the game? You must be talking about the other posters. I'm not defending anything. P. Maximus, how do you feel about leaving JJ on an island with no safety help? It looked like Cornelius Johnson at the OSU game. Yeah, I thought that defense was fine. I think that he's one of the better players. You get over there and you're asking him to make a play to get you off the field. He's one of the 11 on that defense that performed all year long. You want to put every time they had done a pretty good job up to that point. You know, they blitzed 16 times in the game, 13. They were pretty effective. The 3 that they weren't, that was one of them. I feel like putting a guy in a position to make a tackle, one of your better players, I'm for that. You don't always, have the ability to have somebody, did I like that he broke the tackle and went 76 yards and that was the biggest play of the game? No, I don't like that. I think Minter Klink would probably do something else there. Yeah, you don't want to have it repeated, but you have to think that one of your top players put in a position to make a tackle can make the tackle. Who I blame? You blame Minter, Harbaugh, Clinksdale. You know who I blame on that? Turner. Got to make the play. He's one of your better players. It's like Khalil Mullings when JJ, when they're handing the ball off. You want to blame somebody? You blame one of those two. Am I blaming, the play call there? Hang on to the ball. McCarthy throwing the pick sixes. That was on him. Was that on Weissmore for having him throw the ball that great a distance? He's been doing it all year long. It's on him. That was on JJ. That was on Mullings. That was on DJ Turner. Philly special, whoever cooked it up, whoever called it, whoever didn't emphasize the option to be able to get out of that play, that's who that's on. I mean, it's not on Loveland. I mean, if you call a play that goes and the defense is just sitting on you, where was the change? That's who that's on. You want to say it's on JJ? All right, maybe. You might be right. Why they didn't audible out there when TCU is in a zone is something that they can only answer right now. I can speculate, and so can you. All right. We'll answer some more, and then we'll keep going here. Guess we're going to do this all day. I was thinking about just doing this for a half hour today, but with the first one that I did for 15 minutes, I was crying that nobody could hear. Now here I am. Don says JJ still came back after both picks. 343, ran it for 53, 2 and 1 on the ground. The effort to overcome those mistakes. It was the defense that gave up 30 in the second half, which is unheard of. Venice is zeroing in on Minter. Well, I don't know. Venice 16 times. At Michigan blitz, they gave up 3 big plays when they blitzed 16 times. Yeah, like the TCU's offense was pretty good going in. They scored more points this year than Michigan on average. So that was going to be a pretty good defense. You sit back and get picked apart. You say, hey, you can only give up so many big plays. They gave up 1 too many big plays, and that was the Turner one. You want to blame Minter? You want to blame Minter Klink? You want to blame Harbaugh? You want to blame Turner? You're blaming Minter. I'm all right with that. Jesse, he gave TCU 14 points. He's talking about JJ. That's who he's blaming. Here's Venice again. Wants to play the blame game. We rush only 4 when we got intercepted, but Minter, for some reason, kept blitzing, and they killed us every time. That's not true. They killed him 3 times on the blitzes out of 16. Go back and watch the tape. We have the same players next year. Yeah, we have 5 AM players, Sam players. next year. I don't know. I'm sorry. I was trying to work through that one. There's a couple of E's. I feel like I'm watching not the Family Feud, where I got to replace the letters and everything else. I get to spin the board. Venice didn't like the safety play. Cartier, terrible play calling in a game that the defense got pushed around. These guys are not ready for the NFL. Troy is in here. Huge surprise, not expecting that we had to play the game on TCU's terms. All right, we're getting to the point here. Dave says the Cade talk is laughable. Hey, look. Oh, is Caleb Williams coming back? Venice, am I the one? You got the smiley face? I thought that he was able to go pro this year. I think you are right, because he was a true freshman at Oklahoma. Then he transferred to USC. So you are correct. All right, I'll trade J.J. McCarthy for Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner. You got me. G. You say all year when winning it's Weiss. Now it's whoever called it. Yeah, are you arguing? Whoever called? You're talking about the Philly special, Weissmore. I don't know. When you have dual coordinators, maybe that was when they come down to short yardage situations. Maybe Sharon Moore handles those calls. Maybe when it comes down to Philly specials and short yardage situation, maybe it is Weiss. Like, I don't know for sure. You know, playing the gotcha game with me, I'm all right with you playing the gotcha game. You feel like I'm talking in circles or not, putting the blame on the people that should blame. You want to blame specifically Matt Weiss, who is the co-offensive coordinator, because you think specifically he's calling all the plays? All right. I didn't like the call. You don't think Harbaugh after the game said he put it on him? That's just a coach taking the blame? Maybe it is. Maybe more figures in there. When they say it is collaborative, I'm going to take them and say it's collaborative. So that's why I call him Weissmore. It's the same thing on the defense. People always say it was Minter. Clinkscale, you're shortchanging him. The players and the coaches all say that they are co-defensive coordinators. So it is on defense, Minter Clink. And on offense, it's Weissmore. But the coach, he clicks over on offense, he clicks over on defense, and guess what? He clicks over on special teams. He's got 3 channels in those headsets. Offense, defense, and special teams. And if he wants to run the Philly special after taking a timeout, well, then he's going to get it. So when I speculate, I don't know if it was Weissmore or Harbaugh. That's what I'm doing. So again, I don't know. Maybe you're arguing with somebody else, or you want me to affix the blame specifically on Weiss or whatever else. I don't know. People are on the pick sixes. Let's see. Venice has been coming after me. Let's go. Venice, you say only 3 plays. You sound like an OSU fan saying it was only 5 plays. Well, OSU fans only have to say 1 play. They probably should have got the ball a little bit closer in the championship game. You know, here's the truth of Venice. If you're talking about Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State can say 5 plays. I got news for you. I don't know how much football you watch. You knew that that the Heisman Trophy winner was a true sophomore, so maybe you know a lot about football. Here's the secret about football. It usually only comes down to a couple plays a game. The Michigan TCU game came down to just a few plays. I believe that. Do I think the Michigan-Ohio State game just came down to 5 plays? Absolutely, you can make a case for that. So we just disagree how a football game goes. I don't know. Maybe you're a young guy. And, you're looking at analytics, or you think you know everything about football. Football comes down to only a couple plays in a game. And yeah, this game came down to 2 pick sixes, a fumble at the goal line. There's 3. The Quentin Johnson 76-yarder, there's 4. The Philly special, there's 5. There's 5, Venice. Venice is saying, wants me to say hi. Hi, Venice. No, I think that Venice, you have it's hard when you lose a football game. And I think you're having a hard time of coming to grips with it. It's all right. Why don't you go ahead and type out exactly what you thought happened in the game, and we'll read that. All right? Maybe you should hop on Twitter right now, Venice. I'm on there. You have the ability to call in. You want to call in and talk to me? Go on Twitter, Venice, at Dennis Fithian. You could be up here talking within 20 seconds. You want to talk? Let's go. This is incorrect, Venice. You are making silly statements. Get on there. Let's go. All right. Well, I'm yelling at a screen here. I do want to remind people of a couple things. We'll get to some of this Jim Harbaugh talk. If you want to know what's going on in recruiting and what's coming next, basketball season and all that, you can be in tune with Michigan. Join the Maize and Blue Review today. Get instant access. Go to michigan.rivals.com and join the Maize and Blue Review. We'll see you on there today. All right, as you do think about Michigan in the future and how things look for the Wolverines, they did just go back-to-back. They do have good talent, and they do have, despite some of the things that I have said and other people are saying today, is about about the coaching and the talent. They're in a pretty good spot. And yeah, it was a disappointing game. They lost that game against TCU, and it was a game where they beat themselves in a lot of ways. But things are looking good for U of M. Now, there's been some Jim Harbaugh rumors, and there's a lot of times people are like, don't talk about Jim Harbaugh rumors. I don't like Jim Harbaugh rumors. Look, you're a Michigan fan. I understand you don't like Jim Harbaugh rumors. And Harbaugh just recently said, not even a couple of weeks ago, that he would be back in 23. Here's the thing that you need to know. Sometimes if you're a Michigan fan, you're too close to this. The NFL doesn't care what Jim Harbaugh said a couple of weeks ago. The NFL doesn't care that you don't want speculation about Harbaugh because the recruits might hear it. They don't care about that. And you can easily make a case that Harbaugh could be interested in an NFL job. He wasn't recently as last year. And you can say, yeah, but Harbaugh said this. Here's the thing. Coaches' promises and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee traditionally. They say stuff like this all the time. Now, Jim Harbaugh, you could just, if you don't like all the speculation and you don't like Ian Rappaport and the guy on Pro Football Talk last night that was saying the Broncos have been in touch. None of those guys said that Harbaugh was interested. They've talked about that they're on the radar, that they reached out. So that could happen. And Harbaugh, here's the thing, he could use this as leverage right now. And does Harbaugh have every turn need to come out and say, look, I just said 3 weeks ago I'm not interested? Well, when it's on a national broadcast, yes, he does. He's got 100 people that he could call up and get on there right now and have a quote, and maybe he already has. Maybe we'll check with Venice. That he could call people up and say, yeah, look, I'm not interested in the Broncos job. I'm not interested in the Colts job. I'm interested, like I said 3 weeks ago, in coaching Michigan. That could happen today, and maybe it will. But, with Harbaugh, maybe he also could use this leverage. And when you say he would never in a million years, he said he wants to be at Michigan. Look at Bill Belichick makes $20 million a year, and Pete Carroll makes, I think, 15. If the Denver Broncos say, hey, here's $175 million guaranteed for 10 years. John Gruden got 10 years at $100 million for the Raiders just a couple of years ago. Price tag's going up. You want to take Jim Harbaugh away? $175 million in 10 years and control whatever he wants with the Colts. They both have GMs in place. I don't know what his what do you got? Patton, I think, and with the Colts. You also have to work with their GM that's entrenched there. So like I don't know what their relationship like, but if you got 175 million, you're going to have a lot of say. But besides going over the amount of money, if you don't like and you think that's too much, it could be. It could also be where you call up Santa and you say, look, Santa, I want $100 million contract. I want to make sure that all of my assistants, and it looks like they're going to change the rules soon where you can have as many assistants as you want and many analysts as you want. Harbaugh could say, I want top dollar for all of my assistants. I want top dollar for all of my analysts. And I want to make sure that we, with name, image, and likeness, are also putting, I don't know, 25 million a year, whatever it is, towards name, image, and likeness. That's what I want. Now, that's a hell of a package. That's a lot of money. Michigan's big business. Jim Harbaugh is a businessman as well. He's got the leverage right now. Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he'll just say, I want 175 million. I don't think so. I think having said all of that, I think he's going to come back to Michigan. I think over the next 24 or 48 hours, he'll come out and say that he reiterates what he said a couple weeks ago. He's going to coach Michigan in 23 with the, what did he say? The enthusiasm unknown to mankind. So that's where I think it's at when it comes down to Jim Harbaugh and anything that goes on with coaching. All right. I think that could be just about it. All right, let's read a question. Pure Montana told me to calm down. I'm calm now. It took me a little bit. I like having a little passion. Maybe you enjoy some of the pods for guys who are just chilling out and giving you the news. I got it. I think there's a point. You can just like some of that. Pure Montana asking if there is a problem with Harbaugh winning bowl games. He's 1-6. Well, some of those bowl games where Michigan had the opt-outs and against Florida State, they had Dalvin Cook running for 80 yards in the one play. That's what happened in that one. That South Carolina game, a couple of those games, I'm going to put Jim Harbaugh allowing Don Brown to call his defenses. The South Carolina game, the way Michigan played against South Carolina when they lost that bowl game a couple of years ago was one of the worst performances by a coaching staff that I've ever seen anywhere, ever. Venice, it was more than one or two plays in that game. That was an absolute meltdown. I hated that game. So I don't know what they were doing in preparations to South Carolina, but they weren't working on South Carolina. Last year against Georgia, I don't know. Were they ever going to beat Georgia? I don't think so. I'll go specifically. I liked a lot of what they were saying, and I liked the focus of the players and what the coaches were talking about. But I think looking back, if they had, maybe somebody said, hey, are you guys simulating this 3-3-5 well enough in practice because they're going to be coming with something that you haven't seen in 2 years? That would have been a really good question. It's really easy to ask that question after the fact. Maybe Venice would have had a couple good questions for Jim Harbaugh in there that he could have asked. Hey, maybe don't tell JJ to telegraph his passes to some of these TCU defenders because they'll jump the route and take it the other way. Maybe that would have been a very good question, or something to point out. You could have, been able to get that to Matt Weiss. Are you thinking about running a Philly special into a zone? Do you have the ability to audible out of a trick play? If it, I would think that they would say, yeah, we have that. I mean, this is big time college football. They would look at you like you're asking a crazy question. I think it's fair to ask about the transition from linebacker to running back, and that's on a lot of people's mind. Myself, I look at that. If this was game one, like against Ohio State, where he was just thrown in there, Corum gets hurt, and you're taking a linebacker and you're putting him over on offense, you could say, hey, How many reps has he had? I mean, are you a little, I know he did it in the spring game, but, he fumbled in the goal line of the spring game. If you want to go back and watch that. Are you worried at all about ball security or reps with a linebacker going to running back? Fair question. Everybody loved the jump pass, from the 30-yard line on that 3rd and 1. It was an incredible play. I thought that one had disaster written all over it, and yet it worked, and it was, the one for the ages. Maybe they just started thinking, hey, let's just start throwing the dice on a lot of things. We got this trick play stuff down. I don't know how they feel about that. When you go to very risky type plays with a personnel, that is just coming over to your side of the ball that week, maybe you start thinking like, hey, let's try a lot of different things. Maybe they thought about putting, Chris Jenkins at fullback and letting him throw the ball. I don't know. But it backfired. It didn't work. It's not happening. Let's see. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have the coach, Jim Scarcelli. He'll go through the tape. Maybe he'll look at some of those blitzes and he'll say, oh, yeah, this was an all-game thing. Next year, the roster looks promising, but they got to get this passing game going. Enough is enough. Yeah. Venice, they had on some of those 2-point conversions, they had JJ running the ball. The one time he got stopped stoned. The other time he went in there and got in. How come he wasn't running the ball earlier in the game? I asked that question to Scarcelli after the game Saturday, and he said that they were spying him and that their defense was not giving that up. But when he had started having success in the second half, I was thinking the same thing. Here's somebody that wants to get some dogs on offense and defense. Well, I don't know. Was the reason they lost the dog aspect? Players? That's the tough part, because I think normally Michigan fans, if you can blame the refs, and then a lot of people are blaming the refs in this game. But then you like last year against Georgia, it's like Georgia's just have too many dogs. The dogs have too many NFL players. They get too many 5-stars. Michigan had more talent than TCU. Michigan beat themselves in this game. That's a tough part to take. We sit here. Okay. What else? I hope everybody has a great day for the rest of the day. Sorry about, coming in. It must have been interesting watching me scream and yell. I thought I had a good first 15 minutes of the show, too. Except the microphone wasn't on. Michigan probably thought they had TCU right where they wanted them with that Philly special. They didn't have their microphone on. So, who am I to criticize them? We'll be back tomorrow with Jim Scarcelli. Everybody have a great, this feels like New Year's Day because of the football games. I'm just going to sit back and watch some of this football. And we'll talk with you tomorrow. Have a great day. See you.